we have here some questions we asked the fans in advance of this to see what they wanted to ask you, and I just thought this one kind of led right into what we just saw you demonstrate. The Stefan Reintgen project asked where to start when you want to play authentic Latin music.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to listen to it as much as you can, and try to get different kind of, whatever is called Latin music, because Latin music is a big thing.
Yeah.
You say in Latin music, you're talking about Latin American culture brought in, into different environments in a way. If you say in Latin jazz, for example, right? So just try to listen as much as possible and try to imitate the not only the rhythms of it, but the feeling of those rhythms and how it connects with the rest of the other instruments. I think one important uh, tip to that is that not only learn, if you're a drummer, not only learn the drum parts, learn what the piano player is doing, learn also what the bass player is doing. You don't have to learn the notes specifically, but at least try to sing and try to imitate what they're doing so that you understand the relationship between what you do with the other musicians.
Right.
Because many times, you get an instrumentalist, like a drummer, for example, uh, that that have learned, a lot of patterns by itself, isolated from a musical environment, and then when you go to the musical environment, that's a completely different situation. You have to learn how to adapt that, and by learning what other musicians are doing on the bandstand or in that style, then you already have that relationship inside yourself, so that when you listen to it, okay, you adapt yourself to it easily. It's not like starting all over again, another process of trying to synchronize what you do with the rest of the band. So that's as much is important as just learning the patterns by itself. But you know, there is a lot of material in Google, in YouTube.
Yeah.
There is a lot of
even your own materials. Yeah,
even my own material. You can, if you want to learn some of specific rhythms, you can get my book also.
Yeah.
On my website, or
we'll definitely link to that. Yeah.
There are different, so much information out there nowadays in terms of getting that, different patterns and things like that.
But yeah, just really start by absorbing it.
Yeah.
And having that as the starting place from listening.
To me, the most important thing is to be able to sing them.
Yeah.
You have to really, it's just the best way to internalize those rhythms.
Yeah, and I saw that in the masterclass. I mean, the way you made them clap and sing the rhythms before even playing.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Awesome. Well, taking a little bit of a step farther out, we had a question from Lucas Higashino. He said, what defines a great jazz player? So even a little bit broader.
The qualities are really, the way it has to do with personality and improvisation.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you call a great jazz player or someone that is, that stands out for playing jazz, it's definitely his personality, his specific sound through the way of, that's a harder thing to explain, but it's that personality and the idea of being able to improvise, to be right in the moment and being able to think and react right in the moment. Many people practice cliches and things like that, but at the end of the run, when you go to the bandstand, there are going to be so many different scenarios that you haven't practiced to do that. So you have to be open and play at the moment what is needed. It's just like this conversation.
Right.
I was not prepared for that question, but I can give you, improvise wise, an answer that will kind of relate to it.
Yeah, you're ready to
in the
play
best
off
way.
of whatever happens,
Exactly.
and we didn't try to plan that for that.
That's one of the
purpose.
things that I actually tell my students. I don't practice to play what I practice. I practice to be ready to play what I want to play on stage.
Right. Well, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's
that's
a huge difference. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, we just had some questions of our own, based on some of the stuff that we know about you. One of the things that really stood out when we were, learning more about you was that you're a MacArthur Fellowship grant winner, or you've been awarded that. What is the MacArthur Fellowship grant, and how did you come to be awarded that, and how does that help in your development? I think out there, I think it's not very well known what that is, and as I learned more about it, I mean, I can see how it's tremendously helpful.
Yeah, well, it's an award made out of creative. The source of it is creativity. It's someone who has developed somehow his own line of a creative path. Someone that has that adds to that creative, way to humanity in a way. Yeah. And it's not only music; it's in every form. There are physicians, there are physicists, there are chemists, there are from any historians, literature, anything, visual arts, anything that it concerns about doing something that it moves forward. What we already have existed. So that's basically what the award is about.
Okay.
It's really an award. It's not a grant because I didn't apply for it. So there is not really personal applications to do it. This is a decision that is made by a board, completely confidential, and you just basically get a call one day from the director of it, and they tell you have won this award, and then that's basically about it on those terms. Well, it comes with a great honor and privilege and everything else, because a lot of people that has been really renowned by their creativity have won that.
Yeah.
So, but basically, what it gives you is a support, it's kind of an acknowledgement, and at the same time a support so that you can keep going of what you're doing.
Yeah.
They acknowledge what you're doing, and they contribute in a way to that.
To furthering that.
To furthering that in your work.
Well, I mean, that sounds amazing. I mean,
yeah.
if we all had the support,
it's wonderful.
I think we'd be very very creative.
Yeah.
Okay, moving forward. We with our jazz community, we talk about a lot of issues in the jazz community, and we talk about a lot of things to help improve it. And one thing, just from your own personal experience, this everyone has their own experiences, but what's something you wish you could see more of in the jazz community specifically? What's something that you think maybe it could have or need to, push it forward in a more positive direction?
I think I don't think there is anything that is lacking.
Okay.
I just think that it represents, really the people that are doing it. If you change the people, then it's going to change the results. So I believe that music is really something very personal. Therefore, what is happening is that creative people have always the challenge to become popular, because popularity versus almost creativity in a way. Popularity means that you're almost giving the people what the people want, but in a regular basis, people are not necessarily, the majority of it, they're not related to creativity.
Yeah.
They just wanted to get something that is that it relates, by association to something that they've heard before.
Yeah.
So, in a way, you can narrow it down. That's why it is important, and in such a way, awards like the MacArthur, because it just brings that credential or that credibility to the people that have been creative, that obviously a creative life is a much more you know, slower and much more work oriented than one that is popular and one that is you know, I don't want to judge in a way. It's kind of a hard thing because I love a lot of popular music. I come from a place that has a lot of popular music around, and I love it and the whole thing. But there is a different sense of you going to do what everyone is doing, or you're going to go to risk
right
the fact that despite the fact that people, whether they like it or not, you're going to continue doing that path regardless.
Right.
So there is a risk on that many people that do stuff for the sake of popularity or that play popular music don't risk much.
Yeah, no, that's well said. You know, we just have a couple more questions, and
Yeah.
I love that answer. This is something that I think we've touched on before we saw your master class, and I think based off what you just said, you know, you have your book is called The World of Rhythmic Possibilities, and we were talking about struggling to break out of the mold. You know, when you're stuck in a formula, whether it's through your education, you've kind of find yourself, or just after gigging so many times, you know, you just find yourself doing the same things. What do you do, or how do you think about when you find yourself just kind of stuck or doing the same things? How do you break out or seek new perspectives on, you know, getting past the plateau, whether it's playing or creatively? Because I know you have a lot of writing too.
Yeah. Well, you know, there are different ways you can deal with that. You can take a step away from it, give it some time, some space with it, and you can start trying to see and look at it from a different perspective, which is most of the time what you end up happen, but it ends up happen either way.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the only way you can get something differently is by looking at it differently. You cannot be looking at the same thing the same way and expect that it's going to get something different out of it. So, to me, that's, you know, is try to break that habit, because it's a habit. You know, try to create the habit of that routine of leaks and or of thinking all the time. You know, it depends. It varies depending on the specific circumstances. But, you know, is you have to confront that, and you have to tell yourself, I'm going to work on and undo this habit, so that I can you know, be more open, for example. But, you know, it really depends. It really depends how hard you work, how humble you are about where you want to go. Also, I just think that all of this is very personal, because it really goes deep inside of you know, the specific person that does it.
Right.
You know, two different people can work on the same kind of settings, the same kind of problems in terms of resolving, and they probably gonna get different results and different things out of it.
Yeah.
So to me, the experience of music or anything, including obviously life, is a very personal experience. So that's why, you know, I like to give advice and I like to give my own perspective of it, but there is no such a thing as a general, you know, one absolute formula,
of course,
for it, you know, because it might not work for someone else, and at the same time, not everyone is really not capable, but not everyone is really you know, have the willing to be creative, to be through that channel, to be able to break habits, to do like that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of fortitude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those who are really focused and disciplined and able to, you know, to understand the issues in order to get there, then those are the ones that are going to succeed.
Awesome. Well, you know, kind of in that same vein, we have a question we often ask the artist, and kind of what you're saying about this personal journey, this personal experience, how everything is through that lens. what if we turn that back on you in a sense? So we often ask these artists, we say, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self when you're starting to enter your musical career or scene? What do you think you would tell yourself? Not to change, obviously.
Right.
You've done well in your choices, but what do you think? Because we have a young audience, and I think they always benefit to hear. Like,
I probably would have learned a little bit earlier. I would have probably start composing music earlier. I mean, it's not that I start so late, because I start kind of writing music when I was like 17 or 18, which is it's not late, but it's not young either. But I would have probably liked to start that earlier and see what it would have been.
Yeah.
Those first things that I would have, written at that moment when I was, let's say, 10 or 11
Right.
years old. What would that music, would
sound
sound
like?
like?
What would it appear to
But
be?
I don't really have that much of of regrets or that kind of thing, because I'm self-taught in so much stuff that I'm grateful for the effort that I've done, that I've gone through in order to get it, and that effort has paid back to me in confidence about so many other things.
Right.
So that I wouldn't add or take anything away. I'm really, in a way satisfied, either with the way playing drums or the way composing music. The most important thing is to feel like you have found yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you have that sense of confidence, that's okay. I found something that I found in myself that I can recognize, I can feel happy about. I have found a voice that's in a way it resonates with me,
right.
and is hopefully palpable or easier to recognize by others. Right?
Well, I think it is. I mean, I think that's obvious. I mean,
Yeah.
Listening to your records and the way you taught in the master class, and I'm sure you teach a lot, so you have a lot of students. I think they all see that.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much,
My
Dafnis.
pleasure.
I know you've been so gracious with your time.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have more. But thank you so much.
Sure, indeed. My pleasure, man.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.